All right. So I decided to do my cultural project on the Scottish culture from Scotland. There wasn't really any reason I chose this culture, just thought it was interesting as I was looking through them. So today I'm going to be talking about any dietary restrictions, their religious beliefs, their views on death and dying, um, any special accommodations we may need to provide them, and ways that they can interfere with the nursing care, our usual nursing care. So first, we're going to start with any dietary restrictions. The Scottish culture doesn't really have any foods that are just completely off limits. We don't have any like no pork, no beef, things like that. But we can still look at foods that would make our patient feel more comfortable while in our care. So, Scotland actually has a natural abundance of vegetables, fruits, oats, fish, seafood, dairy products, and game, which are the main ingredients for a traditional Scottish meal. Meals are usually kept fairly simple um, with little to no spices because historically they were actually very rare to find or they were very expensive and most people could not afford them. Up here, I just have a little drawing of haggis, which is a fairly popular dish in Scotland. It takes the leftover pieces of lamb that were not used for the rich people, and it just takes that leftover and makes it into one big dish. Um, Next, we will be talking about the religious beliefs of the Scottish culture. So, the majority of Scotland actually follows the practices of Christianity. More specifically, the Church of Scotland is Calvinist Presbyterian, meaning they recognize no head of faith other than the Lord God, and no one person or group within the church has more influence over any other. Um, their main goal, according to their website, is to express their love for God by their love and practical care for each other and others outside of their community. Um, so that is their main goals when it comes to their religion. And then when it comes to death and dying, the Scottish culture really believes in it being a celebration. On my thing here, I have a bunch of confetti around death and dying because most cultures don't see that as a celebration. We see it as mourning and something sad, um, and we are grieving the death of our loved one. And while they still grieve, they do it in a more celebratory way. Um, Part of the reason that this is the case is that there are always signs, or supposedly signs, that point to someone's demise. So they are never surprised when a loved one passes because there were signs telling them, hey, this is getting towards the end of life, we're getting towards death. One of the more popular signs that began in the 15th century is named the Washer at the Ford. Usually it depicts an older woman who is said to be washing the dirty clothes of those who died in battle. So usually bloody clothes. And she poses at the side of rivers or streams, washing those stains out. It's also it's also important to understand that death can be good or bad in the Scottish culture. A good death is usually considered to be earned in combat or war and is a sign of honor and dignity. While a bad death would be an unexpected death, you're away from home, not with your family, and you didn't see the signs. Then, once the person is dead, they begin with a Scottish wake. This is where the body is laid out for several days, and they always have someone watching the body at all hours. It is said that they do this to prevent evil spirits from taking the soul of the deceased, But it also gives time for family and friends that are out of town to come and make it in time to pay their respects before the body is buried. After the formal wake, it is usually time for dancing and celebration, where loved ones share stories about their deceased, and just share wonderful, happy memories, to really show that they're celebrating a life well lived. Death is a natural part of life, and the Scottish culture sees it as that. Um, and so they celebrate all the good things that happened in that life. After the celebration, they after the celebration is the processional, where usually around 8 men carry the coffin on spokes, also on foot, while singing songs in lament of the deceased, playing bagpipes. This is the real time for mourning, and we are appreciating the life of the person, but we're also sad that they are not going to be in their physical body anymore with us. And once they are done, this usually ends at the church where the memorial service is. So here, the deceased is buried and remembered. So this final step, the body is washed and wrapped, and it's wrapped in a special burial cloths and buried in a tomb with a few personal items as well. It's also typical after death for the loved ones to go to great lengths to remember their loved one that has passed. They want to remember their spirit, because it's actually believed that these ancestors still linger in family homes and with their loved ones even after death. So when we're considering the Scottish culture, we want to consider the effect on the nursing care, as well as special considerations for the culture. One thing that is kind of effect on the nursing care would be any accents that the patient has. They may be using Gaelic-derived words or expressions that we might not understand, and there could cause miscommunication between us and the patient. Culture also plays a big part in any preconceived notions of what a person believes healthcare should look like. Luckily for the Scottish culture, that is very similar to what healthcare looks like in America, but just keeping that in mind for any other cultures that we may come in contact with. Some special considerations for the Scottish culture would just be to ensure that they have faith spaces which they can worship and have for contemplation if they do need it. Pretty much somewhere that they can practice their religion. In conclusion, the Scottish culture doesn't have many different dietary needs. They practice Christianity, celebrate the life of their deceased, and can affect nursing care with these special considerations, such as the religious spaces. And it's just really important for us to practice the knowledge of different cultures and the best ways that we can provide care and understanding to the patients. As nurses, it's just really important to understand the needs of each individual client and being able to deliver quality care while respecting their needs, the needs of their culture. So that's my project. I'm gonna bring this up. It's my little whiteboard going over cuisine, religion, death, and dying. All right. Thank you.